different phone calls cast throughout the 16th District, Merced, Madera, and Fresno County, and it just poised me against Jim Costa. So it gave people the choice to vote for Republican Joanna Garcia Botello or Democrat Jim Costa. And so it didn't specify really anything else. I think it said I was a farmer and businesswoman, and I think it used Costa's title as farmer incumbent. And we both were, there was a large percentage that was undecided, and then we were about 1.3%, I was trailing him. So what's changed since then? I don't know. Like I was telling someone earlier, I'm a poor congressional candidate that can't afford to be in their TV, and that's why I'm knocking on their door at dinner time. So, you know, as far as making that public, I suppose I could ask the consultants to send me copies and I could post it somewhere. I don't really think it's relevant for me to be spending my time during a campaign that I'm trying desperately to win, because I believe that I am the candidate that can defeat Jim Costa once and for all, to be digging stuff up from the end of January for other candidates running to help their statistics. Who's going to win, we're going to know in about 18 days. So whoever that is, if it's not me, I don't know if the other candidates are going to be able to beat Jim Costa. I'll be praying that they do, because I really don't want him to be my representative again. But you know, that's really all I can say for that. I don't really know, you know, what else to tell you. I haven't done any other polling because I can't afford it. I have to pay for other things like phone calls so that I don't have to knock on quite as many doors, you know, beg friends to record messages in Spanish for me. That's about it. So thanks for the question.
Well, as far as any other debates before this one, I can't address those. I have no idea. But for this one here, Johnny is at what's called Leadership Fresno. It's put on by the Fresno Chamber of Commerce, and it's a project he's been working on since August. And this meeting tonight has been scheduled since August, so it was, you know, several months in the making, so he couldn't miss that meeting. But that's where he's at tonight.
Thank you for coming. I'm Dave Ortiz. I'm also from the other side of the tracks in Winton, from the bad area. I'm going to give you a shotgun kind of a question, okay? Because there's so many items, we'd be here for about 3 days. So take your pick, which one seems to hit you the most. One of them, I'm really concerned, and a lot of my associates are concerned about government intrusion. There you are, I like his idea. You made it, you're in Congress now, but you got to deal with me. And one of my concerns is there's things that scare congressmen to death. One of them is called EPA, another one's called IRS, the other one's called DHS, okay? Those organizations are scaring the hell out of me, okay? They're taking gun control. They're bypassing the Constitution. They're bypassing Congress. It's really, I hate to say it like this, but it pisses me off. Congress is being put off in left field. Okay, where's the Congress? We're supposed to have three members of government, right? Where are they? They disappeared. One of the things again, so tell me, pick one. High-speed rail is going to cost us $1 billion a year in losses in high-speed rail, in lost revenue. It's not going to make any money. It's going to lose $1 billion. Now, how are we going to divide that cost? Who's going to pay for it? I've got other counties that do not want to pay for it. They say, why should we pay for something we're not getting? The northern counties, they don't want to pay for high-speed rail. Okay. Last year, I think it was, here in Atwater, there was some fellow who was doing child pornography, I guess, in Atwater. And so, you know, the police came to arrest him. Atwater police showed up, Merced police showed up, the state police showed up, DHS showed up for one guy. You know, right now, I'm being watched by Atwater, by Winton, by the sheriffs, by the, you know what,
NSA.
NSA, you know, the Highway Patrol, IRS, you know, wait a minute. And then, here's another one for you, BLM. Did you watch BLM over in Nevada?
Wrap it up, David.
Yeah.
We're running short on time.
Okay, pick one, okay? Because these guys come out here, you've been in the military, right? Yeah, they come out here dressed like a military, and I'm thinking, they're against us. I don't have my combat gear with me. Pick a topic and see how you would respond, because there's a lot.
Well, actually, I think they can all be packaged up really quickly, and it's actually very similar to the question you had asked earlier. Johnny understands that much of the government is working outside of the Constitution, right? They're doing things they're not supposed to be doing, right? And Johnny will stand up and defund those things. He'll vote not to pass budgets that funds those things. And again, like I said earlier, he's a pragmatist. He's not going to think that's going to happen overnight. You're going to go from spending $3.1 trillion to spending $1 trillion on just the necessary items, right? Overnight. It's not going to happen. But he will vote to chip away at those things. He won't vote to keep increasing their budgets on automatic pilot. He won't vote to let those things continue. You know, he will stand firm. He will demand that the budgets for those departments and those agencies be reduced. He'll demand that regulations be repealed or amended to get his vote on a budget. And he'll work in that process to chip away at this bloated government that we have. It's bloated financially and it's bloated bureaucratically. Regulations are bloated. He'll vote to chip those things away. He'll stand firm. He won't, you know, he's not going to tell you, like a congressman named Denham, I'll use his name, he's not going to tell you, I'll stand firm on $500 billion in cuts, that or nothing, right? And then later vote for a budget that makes really $8 or $9 billion in cuts. Johnny will tell you where he stands, and he'll stand his ground. He'll vote no, even if it means partially shutting the government down until they cave in, not the other way around.
That's a lot of topics. You're right, we would be here for 3 days to cover them all. I was watching something that was really concerning on the NSA on C-SPAN a while back, and just the government overreach is why I'm standing here before you today. And we need to stick to the people's rights and the Constitution, and we need to stop allowing things like the government to invade our lives. I think Daryl Isa said it best when he said you don't need to spend any money on backing up your computers because the government's been doing it for you. How you get a copy, we're not sure, but we know it's being done. So that needs to be worked with. There needs to be plans in place to reduce those controls. As someone who had the opportunity of working for the state government, they think they can do whatever they want, and it's not going to be an immediate delete. We got to turn the ship around, and I don't think that people have been fighting to do that. As far as HSR, that's something that hits home for me. Literally, it hits my home. And so I'm not sure what we can do to stop that. I mean, I think we should pull the federal funding, not give that to them, but I think the state is wanting to push full speed ahead. I was just at their most recent meeting in Fresno where they were talking about their study and approving the Bakersfield to Fresno portion. So my house is in Madera, so I'm not being hit quite yet, but I heard all these compelling arguments over and over and over again. The valley fever, stirring up the dust. You know, why are we doing this here? It's a negative cost creator. It's going to be costing us money to provide these quote-unquote jobs you're giving us, and it's going to be wiping out businesses that have been in business for years. It's dividing up farms the way that they're going about it, and it made perfect sense for me that they need to stop what they're doing, but they went ahead and approved it after 2 days of hearing people with really legitimate, compelling arguments. So the guys sitting up there, I feel like they're going to do whatever they want to do, and the only option I'm going to have is to fight about how much my house is worth when they bulldoze it, and I'll probably not know until I'm dead. So, I definitely am against that. I'm against spending money. I was talking to someone and said, how does this not make sense? I mean, there's so many people commuting from San Francisco to Sacramento or San Jose or from San Diego to LA. So why are they doing a train from Bakersfield to Fresno? It doesn't make sense to me. The reason why I think is, just to wrap it up, is so that when it fails, they can say, oh, but this is a train to nowhere, so of course it was going to fail. How about you let us build it in these other 5 places too, and then we'll see if it works. So, something needs to be done to stop that, especially here. If we want to have a test train between San Diego and LA, fine, but not if it's going to cost us money and not if it's going to wipe out viable businesses that are paying taxes in the state of California. Thank you.
Congress has been MIA on a lot of issues, and it pisses me off too, right? I mean, I probably wouldn't be up here if it didn't, right? If Congress was doing a great job and the state of the country and the Central Valley was in a great spot, most of us probably wouldn't be running. But congressional leadership has been lacking. And I think it's probably in no small part because a lot of those men and women are spending a whole lot of time raising money for themselves and not doing the people's work. We'll talk a little bit about bureaucracy, right? Because you asked a lot of questions about different bureaucratic structures, and I'll kind of dive into the weeds here, so bear with me. But I'm going to dive into the weeds and talk about a little agency inside the State Department whose sole purpose is to accept applications and approve applications for grants to South American and Central American countries. All right, so this office was set up in the 70s, and they have some administrators in there, some bureaucrats, whatever you want to call them, and their job is to approve grants for Latin American countries. Well, what do you think the measure of effectiveness for this office is? If this office doesn't give any grants, how are these folks going to be employed? Right? So of course they're giving grants. They're giving grants to Latin American countries. In some cases, they're giving grants to countries that at various times have been not in line with what our national foreign policy has been towards those countries like Bolivia or Chile or Venezuela. We need to reform the measures of effectiveness that we assign to our bureaucrats. And that's a job for Congress. It's a tough job for Congress, but it's part of their oversight function. Right? Part of it is hauling folks up in front of Congress on Capitol Hill. Part of it is also congressmen getting out of their offices, right, getting away from their expensive lunches, and going out to these organizations and talking to administrators, talking to federal employees. A lot of federal employees are GS employees. Now, when I worked in San Diego at a military insurance processing station for a while, I had about 60 employees under me, civilian employees, and they were GS employees. Within the first year of hiring folks, it was fairly easy to terminate for just cause. After 365 days, it got very difficult to terminate for just cause. There are a lot of regulations that have been put in place over about 200 years of our history that makes it very difficult in many cases to terminate employees who are not doing the job. We have to make sure that we align the incentives properly for these folks. The measure of effectiveness for folks in the State Department should not be handing money out to countries. It should be making sure that what they're doing is reinforcing the national policy, right? The foreign policy that is set by the president and voted on by Congress. So it's going to take an entire adjustment in how we view leadership in these departments. And I think for the most part, federal workers would embrace that. Who doesn't want to work for a good boss? But it's going to take Congress getting involved to make sure that we're training leaders just like other companies and other organizations train their leaders, whether it's the military or Fortune 500 companies. A weekend in the Bahamas doing some kind of training thing for different federal employees is not going to cut it. That's not how you train leaders. So Congress is going to have to get involved. We're going to have to delve into the weeds and make sure that we're aligning incentives so that bureaucrats, we do need some level of bureaucrats, to make sure that bureaucrats are doing a job that reinforces what the national purpose should be. Thanks.
All right, so we have 6 or 5 different topics. Let me just hit them real quick. I'll try to be brief and short, to the point, which is a lot of congressmen should do, right? And especially at 8:15. So EPA, what do we need to do with the EPA? Well, what do they? I thought you were telling me I was talking too loud or something. All right, thumbs down. EPA. So how do we deal with the EPA? Well, we deal with the EPA by getting rid of the enabling legislation that they enforce. Right? They enforce things like the Endangered Species Act. Caused a little bit of problems in the valley lately. We need to amend and make it simpler and easier, and then they don't have anything to enforce, right? Because they only are in existence because of the enabling legislation that allows them to be in existence. So we can deal with those things, but we need to be smart and say that's how we deal with it. Okay, EPA. Department of Homeland Security. I moved to Washington, D.C. In August of 2001, and I moved about a mile away from the Pentagon. Not a great place to move with a young bride. And a plane fell out of the sky about a month after we were there. So Department of Homeland Security, they're important. And actually, right after 2001, George Bush did a pretty good job of consolidating some agencies. We talked about getting rid of some federal agencies. They put a couple together and they streamlined that. We need to do more of that. And we need to continue to look at those agencies. But we need to just refocus, okay? We need to be focused on terrorists that exist. They're scary. I don't want a plane to fall down out of our skies. So we need to focus them on what's important, which is these Islamic extremists and the bad guys that are floating around that want to do us harm because we love freedom. Okay, so there is a need for them. We also need Homeland Security because we have a major issue here in the Valley. It's called methamphetamines.